What's going on, truckers? Thanks for watching. Today I want to talk about them brokers. Are they all out there to get us? Are they all out there trying to scam us? Let's try to find out. Let's get going. The home of the do-it-yourself trucker. When everything goes wrong, you gotta recognize. We hear it all the time that brokers are out there to get us. They're trying to screw us over, and we need to regulate those brokers. They're just thieving and just, you know, they take most of the pay and they offer it up as cheap to us, and they won't give us no more leeway on that. And I just don't get it, because I don't understand how all the brokers could be bad. There's got to be some good brokers out there. And I mean, maybe it's not the broker, maybe it's the shipper, you know. I mean, maybe it's somebody else out there that's screwing you over, or maybe you're not getting screwed over. Maybe it's just how the system works. You know, maybe that's just the way the rate pays. You know, I mean, if there's something going on out there, like right now we're in the middle of a shutdown, people aren't shipping anything out there. Freight dropped, you know, the capacity dropped. So rates are going to drop, because then the carriers have to work harder to find the freight. The shippers can shop around a little bit. You know, they're like, hey, I don't need to ship that right now that bad or anything. I can wait for a lower rate. And some of the carriers out there, they're just trying to keep moving so that they can either keep their employees busy, or they can, you know, do something to just try to have some kind of revenue. You know, maybe they've got contracts with people and they've got to take lesser freight to get back to the shippers they have contracts with. You know, a lot of things happen out there that make the rates go down. You know, the brokers aren't trying to race to the bottom or anything. I don't understand. You know, a competitive market is a race to the bottom, because it's whoever can do it the best and the cheapest. And you know that old saying, you can have it one of three ways. You can have it cheap, you can have it fast, or you can have it right. And if you want it cheap, then it ain't gonna be fast and it ain't gonna be right. So, you know, you get what you pay for, right? Some carriers, all they need is that freight put in a box and headed down the road, just get it there. You know, so it's not really that hard for them to understand that. So, and they know that there are drivers out there that don't have their numbers together, and they know that. And I mean, if I could take advantage of that, I would. You know, if there were brokers out there that were paying outrageous rates because they didn't know that they could book it cheaper, then why shouldn't we take advantage of that? And, you know, sometimes I see that we do. So, but the one thing I wanted to get at is that I don't think the brokers are out to get us. And I would really hate for any kind of regulation to come down to monitor what commission they keep or what they charge us, or any kind of paperwork they divulge. I don't want the government regulating my industry, even though it might be another part of the industry. Even if it doesn't regulate me, I would hate to have people that I'm trying to provide a service to be regulated. You know, I want them to be able to spend less money on complying with regulation and spend more money on booking freight and paying for carriers to haul freight. That's what I want. So when they say they want the carriers to be, you know, minimized, they can only take 10% of the cut. Well, that means that all of those brokers that actually went out and like booked customers and they tried to sell freight back, they're not going to do that now. They're going to build more contracts. They're not going to put it in the spot market. They're only going to go with, I booked these customers, these shippers, and I'm only going to give those shippers that freight to these drivers that I've worked out a deal with. That way I can make my money. Because I don't know if you remember, a broker is more than just, you know, hooking up a shipper with a carrier. Okay, a broker does way more than that. A broker has the ability to do way more than that. You know, a broker technically is the one that's looking for stuff that people are looking for. You know, it's like I'm down here in Texas and I'm looking for landscape timbers. Now, I was told this story and this example, and I'm just repeating exactly what I remember the story being. That down in South Texas looking for landscape timbers. I said, you know what? I need landscape timbers and I'll pay $2 a timber. Well, I just kind of put that out there, right? People that know where to look find out that I'm looking for landscape timbers, right? And I'm willing to pay $2 a timber. Well, what I don't know, but brokers may know, that there's a guy up in Wisconsin, he's got landscape timbers, right? And he's trying to sell them. And he's like, you know what? I've got a lot of landscape timbers up here. I've got to get rid of them. I'll sell them $1 a piece, $1 a timber. That's what I'll do. That broker will then call him up, buy the timbers, call me up and say, I've got timbers for you at $2 a timber. You want these timbers? I said, sure, send them down. So the difference, the broker keeps all of it. Keeps all of it. All he has to do is pay the carrier. So then he starts looking for freight and all that. Or he may tell me down here in South Texas, I got $2 of timber, but it's going to cost you another 25 or 30 cents a timber for the freight charges. And shoot, I don't know. I may pay that. The broker knows all what's going on, and that's what the broker does. Whether or not he may have made a bundle on that load there, but because the shipper and the consignee, they don't know each other, the broker brokered the deal. See, that's where brokers can make a lot of money. But when they book a load, and the shipper just sends it, the money comes down, the broker's going to keep his cut, and then he's going to send it on. I don't understand how a broker could stay in business if all they were doing is trying to keep the majority of their money. If a shipper was paying them $2 a mile and they were calling out truckers saying, well, I've only got so much in it, I can only pay you, $1 a mile. I tell you what, there's not that many drivers out there that'll take that load. So if drivers just stop taking that freight, those brokers go out of business, because then they'll have to raise their rates. And that's what I'm all getting at, is that we've got to set our own rates. I talked about it in the previous video. The trucker, the driver, the carrier, those are the ones that set the rates. You're providing the service, you set the rate. When you're getting a kid to mow your grass, the only reason why he's asking you how much you're paying is because he don't know. Well, that's the same way the driver. If the driver's like, how much you paying? Well, you don't know. Well, you should know. You know where it's picking up. You know where it's going. Those two areas, and you know how far it's going to be. You should set the rate. That's how much it's going to be. And there's so many drivers out there that do that. It's amazing to me. I thought I was good at math. Those drivers out there, they could tell you, Denver to Chicago, they know exactly what the money's going to be. And that's their rate. They know it. That might be a little bit more or less than the actual spot market rate in the system, but they know what their price is, and they always got that ready to go. And that, to me, that's pretty cool. That's what you want to do. So all I'm trying to get at is the brokers aren't the bad guys. Maybe the shippers, they're the ones, they can undercut freight too. They know where the deal is. It's just like the whole thing. If you don't know the numbers and the shipper knows the numbers, then they're always going to get the best of you. They know where it's right. Yeah. And if you know that you can't haul anything less than $1.80 a mile, or can't haul anything less than $2.50 a mile, then you just got to, every customer that calls you up, or every customer you call, you got to be ready to take that rate. You got to say, that's my rate. And they said, no, we can't pay that. Okay, click. That's how you solve that problem. Just say, hey, if you got anything paying that rate, give me a call. That's my rate. And if you provide a good service, and here's the other thing, just like we talked about, you pay for what you get, right? If you're not providing a good service, they're never going to pay you that rate. You're never going to get the good rate if you're not providing good service. And he's like, and then just like you're saying, well, all I'm doing is putting into the box and getting down the road. And that's all they want. If they want something extra, they're going to pay for it. They don't know you provide extra stuff. They don't know that you can handle the care that goes into their particular freight. They don't know that exactly where the freight is. You're not going to get lost. I mean, how would you feel if you were paying people to be there at 7 a.m. so they can get unloaded, and they keep getting there at 7:05, 7:15, 7:30? You wouldn't want to pay a good rate for that. So, it's all boils down to customer service. We're providing a service. If you're not going to provide that service at the top level, then you're not going to get top pay. Fine, I said it. There you go. And you can say, well, they're keeping it. They're milking it. You call up the guy. He says, yeah, I got that load going to Chicago. And you say, okay, I need $2.50. And they say, no, all I can give you is $1.20. That's all they're paying this time. Click. Or do something else. Freight is low right now because of the quarantine shutdown. States are just now getting back to where they're starting to open up restaurants again. Okay. You're talking about people losing jobs. Out in California, they say that there's still so much unemployment because they won't allow the factories to start working again. They won't let people in buildings. You can't be in a building working on stuff so close together. You gotta if you can't maintain the separation, you can't be in there. And the companies are just not doing that. So we got to be prepared for the downfall, just like we got to be prepared for the upfall. Back in 2014, 2015, rates skyrocketed because there was just so much demand for hauling freight And then what happened was is so many drivers, so many new trucks got into the market that the rates just kind of leveled back out. And then what you saw this past couple of years, 2018, 2019, a lot of trucking companies went out of business. And that's just kind of that's the what is it, the survival of the fittest. That's just competition weeding out the ones that aren't making it. They're just, you got to weed it out every now and then. What's going to happen is now with this quarantine and with the rates went down, and then the quarantine had the rates plummet. Well, what's going to happen is when the economy picks back up, you're going to see the rates skyrocket again, and then more new trucks are going to get into the system, and then it's going to flatten out. And that happens. That happens on a monthly basis, a weekly basis. In the spot markets, it doesn't. I mean, it's always changing. It's always changing. That's why you see so many drivers out there. So many of those independents. They have good rates because they went out and they found a good customer, and that customer they got a good relationship. That's what all that matters. It's building those relationships, and we appreciate that there are still people out there doing that. You know, like I said, if there are bad brokers out there, especially these bigger brokerage firms, if there are these brokerages out there that are just stiffing it to the drivers, and if you know, I mean, I've heard some people say that they've actually talked to some people that work in those brokerage companies, those big ones, and they said, yes, we're sticking it to the driver. We are keeping 50% of the load, 60% of what the load pays. We're keeping all of that. We're not paying the drivers nothing. I'm going to tell you something. If you've got actual physical proof that that's happening, where 50 to 60% of that rate is being kept, and you have documentation, and I'm not talking like one or two times, I'm talking about a steady flow of that happening consistently, and that company just banking money, you know, Netflix and Hulu and all those streaming services, they're paying these people to do these documentaries. I mean, there are just documentary series on these streaming services where, and they're good, and they're going after, I mean, they're going after, you know, plants or apartment owners and politicians, and they're pointing all this stuff out. To me, a company keeping 60% of what the load pays, and the driver that's actually performing the service is only getting 50% of that, to me, that's a documentary scandal. And that, I mean, at least one episode, you know, if not an hour-long movie or something. I mean, that's just big. And I mean, if there was really that much proof, that that's going on, then that's a big scandal. And I mean, that should be covered all over the place, and it should be big. And I would love to see more proof of that coming out. You know, hell, is YouTube right here. You know, it's not that hard. If somebody's working for one of those brokerage firms and they want to come on YouTube, I mean, there's tons of people out there trying to get all this out there. And all they do is they say, oh, we know what's going on. If you got proof, you're talking about, you know, getting on, you know, Joe Rogan. Shoot, that's big. That's big. If we know that these brokers are actually doing that. Now, I'm not saying, like I said, it's not like one or two times where they've got this awesome customer and that customer is just paying them crazy. And they say, hey, that's just too much, but I'm not going to tell that shipper that, so I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to send it out there for the rate. You know, even though the funny thing is, if they're still keeping 50%, but the rate's still good, then what do we care? You know? So I just think that the brokers aren't necessarily the bad guys. I think that there are shippers out there that are trying, that maybe there's people out there trying to undercut everybody else. I totally agree with that. You know, there's drivers out there, you know, a shipper calls them up and says, yeah, I need this load hauled. You know, what do you charge? $5 a mile. Oh, really? Okay, well, okay. And they'll pay it because they don't know. But if they just call the next guy probably give them a good rate within the market standards where the driver still makes money. So, you know, it's all about take advantage of what you can take advantage of, but it's always, the free market always operates off of a good moral standard that you're not trying to screw over the next guy. The people that don't operate that way, they'll get caught and they'll go out of business, because people just aren't going to put up with it, you know. So I appreciate all you drivers out there listening and watching, and we always want to stay positive and stay motivated to make good money. You know, trucking is awesome, but when you have a job like trucking that has this high level of awesomeness, well, there is an extreme level of just crappiness that goes along with that. And, you know, you got to take the good with the bad. So I love trucking. I love getting up and down the road. I love talking to truckers and handling that big truck. And I also really love making these videos. It's really been a great opportunity, and I hope to keep doing it. And I appreciate all you guys out there. Hey, check out our website at redneckandknives.com and give us a holler. Let us know. I also like to give a big shout out to Load to Ride Transportation. Load to Ride Transportation has really stepped up. Not a lot of carriers have stepped up to help us, but Load to Ride is an awesome carrier that has really stepped up to help us out and help us provide a good parking lot experience so that we can, cook food and have some entertainment for the drivers out there at the truck shows. We hope to be able to get to a truck show here pretty soon. Doesn't seem like there's a lot going on right now because of the quarantine and everything, but we're going to keep on rocking and rolling. So we're looking forward to it. But if you could check out Load to Ride and check them out at www.onestopfreightways.com. They've got job opportunities out there for OTR, and it says local too. I think that they're only got one location, and that's up in Denver, but they might be spreading out. But they've got connections with other areas and other markets to where they're dealing with, the intermodal and the ports and stuff too. So they deal a lot in that. They're running pretty cool trucks, and they got pretty cool logo, and they get up and down the road pretty good. I like it. So check them out, and let them know that you appreciate what they do for Redneck and Knives, and we'd appreciate that. So y'all take care, keep between the ditches, and we'll see you out there on the road.